Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Relax your body. Calm your mind and calm your emotions. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, and all the great, great ones, thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection. Thank you in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. Okay, so let's begin. Chapter 3 will be about the science of triangles. So first we will discuss what is this science, and then we will discuss about a few examples. If you have read the book Existence of God is Self-Evidence, their Grandmaster says there is always triplicity. This tree is everywhere. Like we have light, love, power, God the Shiva, God the Vishnu, God the Brahma, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So these three qualities happen all the time, everywhere. There is always Trinity. So tree creates a triangle. So we have these triangles of energy in the bigger scale and also in smaller scale. So we will talk about a few of them for example, and then we will finish with a quick summary. So we have been working for some time now upon the third part of our study of the zodiac and the race. This entire section deals with the nature of esoteric astrology, and under our introductory remarks, we considered very briefly the significance of esotericism as a whole when applied to modern astrology. Now we begin to take up the third and most important part of this astrological study, entitled The Science of Triangles. This study will fall into three parts. 1. Triangles of energy, constellations. 2. Triangles of force, planetary triplicities. And 3. Triangles and the centers, planetary and human. So we are going to discuss about each of these three and then have a brief conclusion at the end. Okay, number 1, triangles of energy, constellations. Now, lying behind all the many interlocking triangles in our solar system and conditioning them to a very large extent are three energies coming from three major constellations. They are the emanations from the Great Bear, from the Pleiades, and from Sirius. It might be pointed out that 1. The energies coming from the Great Bear are related to the will or purpose of the solar logos and are to this great being what the monad is to man. Okay, monad in pranic healing language is divine spark. This is a deep mystery and one which even the highest initiate cannot yet grasp. Its sevenfold unified energies pass through Shambhala. So the Great Bear is connected with the will aspect. So you remember in the beginning we said there is always Trinity, which is will, intelligence or light, and love. So in this whole cosmos, we have one major triplicity, and that is Great Bear, Pleiades, and Sirius. So Great Bear is connected with the will aspect. Number 2, the energies coming from the sun, Sirius, are related to the love wisdom aspect or to the attractive power of the solar logos, to the soul of the great being. This cosmic soul energy is related to the hierarchy. Okay, so second is love wisdom, which is connected with Sirius. And 3, the energies coming from the Pleiades, an aggregation of 7 energies, are connected with the active, intelligent aspect of logoic expression and influence the form side of all manifestation. They focus primarily through humanity. So we have Great Bear, first ray, Sirius, second ray, Pleiades, third ray, or will, love, wisdom, intelligence. Connected with this major triangle and affecting powerfully our entire solar system is a triple interrelation of great interest, which has a special and peculiar relation to humanity. This triangle of forces relates one of these major constellations, one of the zodiacal signs, and one of the sacred planets within our solar system. So this is one major triangle or triplicity: will, love, intelligence, also connected with Shambhala, hierarchy, humanity. Now, we have, after this, we have 3 triplicity. Now, these triplicities are more connected with humanity, and in each of these triangles, we have one zodiacal sign, one sacred planet, and one of these major constellations. So one is the Pleiades, Cancer, Venus, the Great Bear, Aries, Pluto, and Sirius, Leo, Jupiter. Now, we will discuss about all of this briefly, of course. So these 3 major triangles are only partially as yet in expression as far as our solar system is concerned. It is useless for students to attempt to unravel this aggregation of interlacing streams of energy. All that is now possible for man with his present equipment is to accept hypothetically these statements and seek to prove their effect and to endeavor to arrive at some understanding of that intricate interwoven network which he himself possesses and to which he gives the name etheric body. Thus, he may succeed in proving the accuracy of a statement by the demonstrated quality of the life aspect, its conditioning and results in the microcosmic life, history, and events. Okay, so these triangles that we are discussing, they are not even all in manifestation yet. So the book says it's very hard for now for us to be able to validate this. So we can just take it as hypothetically true. But what we can do is to, when we discuss about all these triangles of energy and the concept behind them, we can try to understand the effect of such triple or triangular energies in our life and try to understand how it works affecting our etheric body. And maybe eventually when we take certain initiations and we are able to validate more cosmic ones or in a macrocosm level, then we can do so. But as of now, we can just take what is being discussed here hypothetically true until we have the ability to validate it for ourselves. Now, astrologers have begun to grasp a dim idea of the interlocking triangles of energy as far as our Earth is concerned, in the rather arbitrary division of the 12 constellations into 4 triplicities, covered by such qualifying terms as earthy triplicity or fiery triplicity, composed each of a cardinal, a fixed, and a mutable sign. So you see these triangles happen again and again in different ways. But one of the ways that astrologers have tried to understand the 12 constellations is to put them into triplicities connected with elements. Like this is earth element, water element, fire element, air element. So there will be 4 because we have because of these 4 elements, and each includes one constellation, one zodiacal sign. And it's interesting that in this triangle, there is one cardinal, one fixed, and one mutable sign. If you remember, we discussed about the crosses. So they thus divide up the entire zodiac into a 4-fold group of interlacing and interrelated triads, each conditioned by one of the basic elements and thus qualified. These constitute a series of basic triangles with a definite reference to our planetary life. So one way of looking at triangles is from their element perspective. Behind this concept of the relation existing in time and space between the constellations of the Great Bear, the Pleiades, and the Sun Sirius, and our solar system, there exists, it must be remembered, an immense series of interlocking triangles between the stars which compose these constellations, interiorly and our solar system. You have therefore a relationship between 1. The 7 stars composing the Great Bear, 2. The 7 stars composing the Pleiades, sometimes called the 7 sisters or wives of the rishis, or informing lives of the Great Bear, and 3. The Sun Sirius. These compose major triangles of force, and all are held within the radius of the life of that great being, whose express manifested intention is brought into being through the medium of these 3 related groups and our solar system. As hinted by me in a treatise on cosmic fire, these groups of stars constitute the manifested aspect or personality of a great and unknown life. So we discussed that we have one major triangle which was composed of Great Bear, Pleiades, and Sirius, but these 7 stars of the Great Bear and 7 stars of Pleiades and the Sirius, they have interlocking triangles between themselves also. So we are not going to discuss about all of them in detail, but we are trying to look at the concepts, how these triangles are made. And we study some of them in a bit more detail just to understand, the principle behind that. Now, I seek in this connection to give only a general picture because with these cosmic triangles, I have no intention to deal. We will only consider those constellations within the greater zodiac which are known by astrologers to have a definite effect upon humanity and our planetary life. Therefore, in studying these triangles, we will make certain rules which under the law of analogy may facilitate our comprehension of the underlying meaning and truth. So basically, the book says we are not going to study all the triangles, but we are going to study some of them which are more connected with humanity and our life, our planetary life. But based on the concept of analogy, the same analogy can be taken, we can understand it, and we can then apply it to the other triangles. So all triangles studied will be regarded as expressing a major conditioning energy producing manifestation. This corresponds to the monad aspect. B, a secondary qualifying energy producing consciousness. This corresponds to the ego or soul aspect. And 3, a lesser expression of force producing tangibility. This corresponds to the personality aspect. So in all of the triangles that we are going to study, we have 3 expressions: the divine spark, the higher soul, the incarnated soul, or the will aspect, the love aspect, the intelligence or light aspect, which also deals with forms and producing tangibility. So this concept appears in all the triangles that we discussed. 2, these 3 energies will be related, therefore, to the 3 aspects of manifested life. These have been termed throughout this treatise life, quality, and appearance. 3, these energies change within themselves, and sometimes one will strike the dominating note and sometimes another. Sometimes a secondary energy will become a major conditioning force, and sometimes the lesser expression will come to the top and become, for the cycle, the outstanding characteristic of a triangle. So if you remember earlier, I think in the first session or second session, when we were talking about the 12 hierarchies, we also discussed about these different triangles which are created based on the different amount of light, love, and power. Okay, so if you remember, we discussed about that. So here it says, let's say if we have light more than love, more than power, it doesn't mean that it stays like that. Okay, sometimes one major energy means there is also change within the triangle. Sometimes love is the highest, sometimes will becomes the highest, sometimes intelligence becomes the highest. So means the dominating note may become a lesser expression. A lesser expression may become a major conditioning force. So means there is change of energy within that triangle itself also. 4. The statements made by me in this attempt, for it is little more to indicate the main lines of approach to the new science of esoteric astrology, may not yet be capable of any proof. So we discussed about this, especially when it comes to studying cosmic triangles and triangles connected with macrocosm. It's a bit harder to validate unless our consciousness raised so high after taking higher initiation, so we can actually experience and understand it for ourselves. But what we can do is try to understand the concept behind it, and then try to, using the science of analogy, compare it with our own life. Like they say, what is above, as above, so below. So we try to see it in our life, understand it, and then validate it like that. Now later on such proof will be available. All that I can ask of you at this time is to be interested in the presentation, to strive to see the general picture I am seeking to present, and to grasp somewhat the relative synthesis which underlies all manifestations, starting from that which is today accepted, be willing to move on from there into new fields of possibility and of sensed probability. Time will justify the information I ask you to accept as hypothesis. Next, I will deal with an analysis of 3 groups of triangles which are of major importance to humanity at this time and which follow upon information earlier given. These groups of triangles emanate energies which reach through space to the individual man and therefore cannot be ignored. So we will discuss about these. Now, there is one tabulation here, a cosmic series of interrelated triangles. Connected with the will aspect, we have Aries, Leo, Capricorn, orthodox planets Mars, Sun, Saturn, esoteric planets Mercury, Sun, Saturn. Connected with with love, wisdom ray or second ray, we have Gemini, Virgo, Pisces. Orthodox planet Mercury, Mercury, Jupiter, or Venus, Moon, Pluto. Connected with the active intelligence or third ray, we have Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Connected with fourth ray, harmony through conflict, we have Taurus, Scorpio, Sagittarius. Connected with fifth ray or concrete science, we have Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius. Connected with sixth ray, idealism or devotion, we have Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. And connected with seventh ray or ceremonial order, we have Aries, Cancer, Capricorn. Now, in this consideration of the basic science of triangles, the relation of the 3 basic energies affecting our solar system and the predominant effect of one of them in any cyclic expression in time and space must always be borne in mind. These 3 energies that we discussed, will, love, and intelligence. One illustration of this normally emerges in our minds if it be remembered that in this world cycle, in our systemic manifestation, it is the second or consciousness aspect, that of the second logos, which is the dominant conditioning factor, which sets the note for evolutionary development and which engrosses the attention of the evolving human units. If you remember, we said the purpose of this current solar system is to develop the love aspect. And the purpose of the previous one was intelligent aspect. So because the focus now is on consciousness, is on love, wisdom, is on second aspect of God or love, that's why in our evolution, consciousness becomes very important. So this is the case even when other factors are present and active. Therefore, all approaches to truth and to knowledge must in this cycle be in consciousness. So that's why consciousness in this world cycle is very important, because it's connected with what we need to develop, connected with second aspect of God. Now, in another cycle, such an approach may be focused in the will or even in some already present but unrealized divine attribute for which we have as yet no name. All that any man can consequently bring to the comprehension of life experience or to the understanding of such an occult science as the science of triangles is a consciousness which is developed to a certain definite and personal point of perception or awareness. This point of perception is itself dependent upon individual unfoldment and also upon the state of awareness of humanity as a whole. Okay, so because in this world cycle, the focus is on love, wisdom, or consciousness. So whatever we do, all our approaches to truth and knowledge in this cycle is from the perspective of consciousness. Now, the 12 signs of the zodiac fall into two groups of signs, and their related synthesis has much to do with the science of triangles. They are 1. 7 signs related to the unfoldment of planetary consciousness upon Earth and only incidentally involving the fourth creative hierarchy, the human hierarchy. And 2. The 5 signs related to the unfoldment in time and space, the human hierarchy. These 5 signs are of major conditioning importance and may be enumerated as follows. A. Cancer, B. Leo, C. Scorpio, D. Capricorn, and E. Pisces. Okay, so we have two groups. One is 7 signs related to the unfoldment of planetary consciousness, and 5 signs related to the unfoldment of the human hierarchy. And those 5 signs, which are very important as of now for us, are these 5. Cancer, Leo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces. Now, these 5 signs are related in the planetary sense to the 5 great races, of which our present race, the Aryan, is the 5th. To know more about 5 races and all these root races and sub-root races, you can go back to the study of the solar system. We discussed about all of this in details. But here says these 5 signs are related in planetary sense to 5 great races, in which Aryan is the 5th, which we are right now. These 5 races, under the influence of the 5 signs, produce the externalizations which are called the 5 continents: Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, America. So the 5 signs connected with the 5 races are externalized as 5 continents. These 5 continents are to the planetary life what 5 major endocrine glands are to the human being. They are related to 5 centers. Okay, so all of these are interrelated. 5 signs, 5 races, 5 continents, 5 endocrine glands connected with 5 centers. All these appearances, expressions of qualities, and material evidences of life are the symbols or outer and visible signs of inner and spiritual realities or of life, whatever you may mean by that term. For our purpose, we could define life as the energy emanating from certain great lives who stand behind our solar system as its life and source, much as the monad stands behind the appearance of a man upon the physical plane or of the life upon its own level. Man, it might be stated, is the expression of 7 principles and of the life expression or activity of 5 planes. In this 7 plus 5 is to be found the clue to the mystery of 7 and the 5 zodiacal constellations. So you see everything get related to one another. So we have 7 principles and we have life expression or activity of 5 planes, 7 plus 5, And here we already discussed about 5 signs and 7 signs. So this 7 plus 5 is connected with those constellations that we just discussed. We also have 7 sacred planets and 5 non-sacred planets, which could be related to this also. Within the sum total of active qualified energies, we have influences and impulses from 3 major constellations. So this is what we have already discussed, the Great Bear, the Pleiades, and Sirius. These pour through certain other related constellations and planets into the 3 major planetary centers, Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity. It is with these 3 centers I would seek to deal, and to them and their interrelations continually make reference. I would ask you to bear in mind that these energies are transmitted from one point to another or pass through with transmuting effect from one center to another, thus bearing their own vibratory quality but carrying also that of the center of transmission. We already said that we have 3 major constellations and each constellation is connected with one of these 3 major planetary centers. So we said Great Bear connected with Shambhala, Sirius connected with hierarchy, and Pleiades connected with humanity. So the energy poured through these centers. In this transit of energy from a major center to a human being, and when the energy is finally grounded in the disciple's center, you will notice that it is then a fusion of 6 energies. These 3 groups of energies, each of them a fusion of 6, make the dominating energies controlling the human being to number 18. This holds the clue to the mystery of the mark of the beast, which is 666. So we have these 3 major energies which pour through 3 major centers. These 3 groups of energies, each of them a fusion of 6, because they pour through 3 and then there is effect on, and they get finally grounded in the disciple centers. So means we have triplicity flowing through, and then there is a result in the human system. So there is a fusion of 6 energies. 3 groups of energies, each of them a fusion of 6, comes to 18. This holds the clue to the mystery of 666. 3 groups, each fusion of 6, which is known as the mark of the beast. This is the number of the active intelligent man and distinguishes him from his form nature from the spiritual nature, which is 999. Okay, so this is the effect of those energies on the human system, on the active intelligent man. And previously, I think we discussed that because of taking the apple of knowledge, the person was fallen, the humanity was fallen. So that's why this 666 is known as the mark of the beast, because it relates to the active intelligent man, and the power of the mind or intelligence distinguishes the person from the spiritual nature, something like that. Now, spiritual nature is 999. Anyways, you think about it further, but this is just explaining that sometimes we think, for example, previously I heard 666 is not a good number. It relates to like Satan or something like that. But just hearing it, and not studying about this, we may have a different idea. But here it just says this is connected with the number of the active intelligent man. And because that apple of knowledge made us to fall, which is fine, because the whole thing was because of incarnation and evolution eventually. So it's not a bad number actually when we study. We just know that there is what is it connected with, how this comes about. And then we have a deeper and more understanding about it. We go beyond what is simply believed by people. So these 3 lines or streams of energy in man may be listed as follows. Will aspect. So this is 3 groups, each 6 fusion, something like that. So one is the spirit, the great bear cosmic, Leo zodiacal, Saturn systemic, Shambhala earth planetary head center, spirit head center, initiate egoic purpose, base of the spine, initiate personal will. Then we have love, wisdom, consciousness, Sirius cosmic, Pisces zodiacal, Uranus systemic. Connected with hierarchy, earth planetary heart center, consciousness heart center, disciple, egoic love, solar plexus, disciple, personal desire. Active intelligence, form, Pleiades cosmic, Capricorn zodiacal, Mercury systemic. Connected with humanity, earth, planetary Ajna center, form, Ajna center, aspirant, spiritual mind, throat center, aspirant, personal creativity. Through the great triangle of Shambhala, the hierarchy and humanity, cosmic, zodiacal, and systemic force is focused, and these three become in their turn a macrocosmic triangle of energies in relation to the individual human being upon the planet. You have therefore the following lines of transmission of force. We have Shambhala connected with head center and base of the spine. We have hierarchy, heart center, solar plexus, and we have humanity, Ajna center, throat center. Will, love, intelligence aspects. There is in truth a veritable multiplicity of triangles. For the triangle is the basic geometric form of all manifestation, and it is to be seen by those who have eye to see underlying the entire fabric of manifestation. Whether it is the manifestation of a solar system, the manifestation of the zodiacal round, the cosmic triplicities, or the tiny reflection of this divine triple whole, which we call man. So you see, we always have Trinity, as Grandmaster also says. When the human being is manifest, but is not yet truly manifested, the triangles which symbolize this manifestation are the two eyes and the third eye. One, the right eye, the eye of Buddhi, of wisdom and of vision. Two, the left eye, the eye of mind, of the common sense and of sight. And three, the eye of Shiva, the all-seeing eye, the eye which directs the will and purposes of deity. So always you see love, intelligence, power. This triplicity always connects with these three different qualities of energy. These three are in reality, they are the eye of the Father carrying light from the Great Bear, the eye of the Son carrying light from Sirius, the eye of the Mother carrying light from the Pleiades. And it is this latter light energy which is necessarily peculiarity active when the sign of Taurus is dominant in any planetary and individual horoscope. We said during talking about Taurus that is connected with the eye. In some unusual manner, from the human angle, all that concerns the development of mankind has been down the ages expressed by him in terms of illumination and knowledge, in terms of sight and of the entrance of light, thus leading to revelation and to the true theme of astrological interpretation. From this peculiar angle, therefore, we can approach the great triangles with which we are today concerned and deal also with their significance in terms of light. We also discussed about the zodiacal signs in terms of light before. This significance and approach can be summed up in the following stanzas from the old commentary, which, if studied carefully, will throw much light upon the theme of this particular subject. So we are now going to talk about three triangles. First, we will read what is written in the stanzas from the old commentary, and you will see that there is symbolism in each. And if we read it with the understanding of esoteric astrology that we have already gained through this book, we can understand those three triangles more. So one, the sevenfold light, this is from the old commentary, okay? So we are just reading first, and then we will discuss about what each of these three means, which triplicity it is referring to. So the sevenfold light of the Father brought from chaos into the ordered day his purpose and his plan. The seven supreme gods bent to this purpose and with united will ordained the plan. The bear and the lion met together and laid their plans in conformity with the plan and with the purpose of their controlling Lord. They called on Father Time. Father Time refers to Saturn, is a symbol for Saturn, for aid and strength, and he responded to their triple call. To this call likewise the eternal youth responded, referring to Sanat Kumara, Lord of Shambhala. He set himself anew to learn the plan, aided by Father Time, yet unaffected by the Lord of Time, for he himself was timeless, though not the lives which he enfolded in his thought and plan. You see, if you read this without any understanding about esoteric astrology, we can't understand anything because everything is like symbolic. The bear, the lion, the light of the Father Time, the eternal youth, and everything. But when we study these um, with the understanding of esoteric astrology, then it starts to make sense. We will come back to it later. Then the triple light which came from the bear in his high place, from Leo in his lesser place, and from Saturn in his little place, poured into the planetary place of power. Shambhala was informed. The Lord of life and of the world took action. The little one within the greater whole, the individual human disciple, likewise responded to the triple light, but not until the cycles passed and passed again. Late in the day of time, Shambhala sent a call, relayed from voice to voice and rolling forward on the Om. The disciple, hearing that sound, lifted his head. An impulse from the base mounted in time and space. Leo within the heart and the head shouted aloud and stood whilst Saturn did his work, and thus the twain were one. So this is about triangle number one. We will come back to it and explain what it means. First, we just read what the old commentary says. 2. The central light of Sirius shone through the eye of the sun. The vision came. The light of wisdom penetrated into the waters and cast the radiance of the heavens into the depth. At this attractive call, the goddess rose until the surface. This goddess refers to the fish goddess, the symbol of Pisces, and welcomed the light within the depth and grasped it as her own. She saw the sun, having seen her son, and from that day the sun has never left her. There is no darkness, there is always light. And then the heavens within the ring pass not responded to the light from Sirius, which passing through the sea of Pisces lifted the fishes into the heavenly sphere, referring to Uranus. And thus a lesser triple light appeared, the radiant sun of suns, the watery light of Pisces, the heavenly light of Uranus. This light descended on the waiting sphere and lit the galaxy of little lights upon the earth. A hierarchy of light emerged from its own place. The planet was a light. And number 3, the little one upon that little world responded slowly to that light until today the little world of men begins to throb in rhythmic unison. Changes are wrought. The cosmic heart, the heart systemic, and the little heart of man begin to beat as one. And as this beat pulsates with greater strength, it blends a lower note, that of the solar plexus, within itself, removes its harshness and its note of fear, and thus it ends illusion. And then again, the two are one. Okay, now hard to understand, right? So let's study and see what it means. Each of them is referring to one triangle, each of them connected with one aspect of the logos, as we discussed, will, light, power, and each of them is connected with either Shambhala, hierarchy, or humanity. So a consideration of a hint given earlier as to the symbolism and significance of the three eyes available for man's use will be found, illuminating at their relation to the heart and truth will prove evocative of knowledge. They relate to the three centers above, referred to and in their wider connotation relate to the three planetary centers, humanity, hierarchy, and Shambhala. Further back still lies a relation to the cosmic centers of the Great Bear, Sirius, and Pleiades. In between these planetary centers, to which I have referred, and their distant cosmic archetypes lie three systemic centers, which at this time and under cyclic law are Saturn, Uranus, Mercury. So these three were also referred to in the above three stanzas that we read. In between these, again, are to be found a zodiacal triangle of Leo, Pisces, and Capricorn. For purposes of our immediate consideration, the following three triangles are therefore to be found. When the significance of this is grasped, the following interesting points will appear. Triangle 3 depicts the interplay of three streams of force, which in this particular world cycle condition and basically influence ordinary humanity. This is the third one that we read, is connected with humanity. Forget not that humanity itself constitutes a great center in the life of the planetary logos. A. Capricorn connotates destiny, firm foundations, concretization, the mountain of karma that holds down the struggling soul, or the mountain of initiation which must eventually be climbed and surmounted. It signifies therefore the great force of liberation, which both drives into experience and brings experience to an end, from the angle of humanity. This is the major stream of force in this particular triangle at this time. So triangle 3 has A. Capricorn, B. Mercury. Mercury brings in that quick and intuitive mind which interprets experience, fosters the growth of the intuition, and relates the inner spiritual man to the outer human being in such a way that their future unity of purpose, plan, and effort is assured. Mercury brings about those changes in mental perception, which eventually enable humanity to act as the mediating interpreter between the higher worlds and the three lower kingdoms in nature. Thus, Mercury institutes the threefold activity of this center in the body of the heavenly man, which we struggle to perceive and comprehend, and which we regard as forming the three phases of the mind: the abstract mind, pure manas, the son of mind, soul, Manasputra, and the concrete mind, mental body. So in the triangle 3, we had Capricorn, we had Mercury, and we had Pleiades, connected with intelligent or light aspect. In this particular world cycle, it is Capricorn which is producing the moment of crisis, a crisis of initiation, plus a crisis of destruction, paralleled by a crisis of mental perception, precipitated by Mercury. It is this mental perception plus world participation in the crumbling of the mountain load of karma, which heralds the vision of the new day from the top of the mountain. Here in pictorial language, I have endeavored to indicate the three streams of energy which meet in the center called humanity, involving therefore 1. The active intelligence of man latent in the human center. 2. The initiatory activity of Capricorn. And 3. The illuminating radiance of Mercury. This combination of energies produces a triplicity of activity of supreme importance today. So this was triangle 3 that we read. Now triangle 2 has been called the triangle of the advanced man. It is associated with the kingdom of souls, with the fifth kingdom. The triangle 3 was connected with the fourth kingdom, which is the majority of humanity. Now, triangle 2 has been called the triangle of the advanced man. It is associated with the kingdom of souls, with the fifth kingdom in nature, as it is related to the fourth. It is this triplicity of forces which, playing on triangle 3, attracts out of it those units of energy, which, as a result of the activity of Capricorn, Mercury, and humanity itself, are ready to come under hierarchical influence and to be swayed consequently by different streams of force to those evoking response. So means out of majority of humanity, which is in fourth kingdom, the ones who are more advanced then and are capable of responding to hierarchy, they become under the influence of triangle 2 then. So A is Pisces. In triangle 2, we have A Pisces, which is particularly potent at present in the life of humanity. This was written when we were still in Pisces age, I think. Now it's already moved to, forgot the other zodiac which we are right now. Anyways, one after Pisces, before Pisces actually, but in clockwise direction is after Pisces. Pisces is particularly potent at present. Aquarius, thank you so much. Pisces is particularly potent at present in the life of humanity owing to its being the sign which is now passing out of influence as we progress upon the great wheel of the zodiac. So you see it's passing out. But we are now already, I think, in Aquarius itself. It is this sign with its combination of energies which has produced such a potent vibratory activity in humanity that it can successfully and eventually enact the role of world savior. Of this salvation, Pisces is the sign. So in triangle 2, we have a Pisces. Pisces is also the sign of death, as you know, and in its death aspect, we see the Piscean correspondence to the first aspect, the destroyer aspect of the Logos. This death aspect is naturally active at the close of the Piscean age and is consequently bringing about the present death of form in all the three worlds. Then we have B, Uranus, is the planet of occultism, for it veils that which is essential. It hides that which must be discovered, and at the right moment it transmits knowledge of the hidden mystery. Today, for the mass of men, occultism is non-existent. For the aspirant and the disciple, occultism is rapidly becoming a source and system of revelation as they penetrate into the wisdom of the hierarchy. The triangle of Pisces-Uranus hierarchy is becoming magnetically attractive to the triangle of humanity. Uranus and Mercury in combination are dualities which the disciple learns to resolve. And in the process of this resolution, he shifts his focus out of the humanity kingdom into the fifth kingdom, the hierarchy of souls. Pisces and Capricorn in unison bring about those changes which lift the disciple out of the waters wherein he is rapidly drowning onto the mountain top, from whence he can watch the recession of the waters. Thus does he know himself initiate. The present world crisis should and will see a close merging of the two triangles in a most potent manner, and this partial synchronization will produce the sixfold energy needed to bring in the new sixth race and the new world period wherein fellowship and brotherhood will be manifest in all human relations. So it says these two triangles, triangle 3 and triangle 2, will be merged, and this will create the type of energy and influence that we need for the sixth race to come into existence. So fifth root race, which is Aryan root race, is what we are right now, and we are going to have the sixth root race later on. Triangle 1 is produced by the interrelation of energies from Leo, Saturn, and Shambhala. Its potency is naturally felt more directly in the triangle of the hierarchy than in that of humanity. These three energies are sometimes called, in an effort to make understanding more easy and to simplify comprehension, the triple energy of will. The will of self-determination, Leo, the will of sacrifice, Pisces, the will to choose, Capricorn. So the previous one, triangle 2 was connected with love aspect. Triangle 1 is connected with will aspect. Because the Shambhala force lies behind the other two triangles and is the recipient of energy from the three above constellations, blending them into the united expression of will, and thus proves to be the custodian of divine purpose. The triangles of which the hierarchy and humanity are the expression are becoming responsive to Shambhala, the hierarchical center greatly so, and the human center gradually so. This first or fundamental triangle is occult in the truest sense of the word to even the trained occultist and to the majority of the members of the hierarchy. Therefore, only a few points can be mentioned in connection with it, as there is little to be found in even the advanced disciple with which to reach real understanding. Okay, so because this one, um, the triangle 3 was more connected with humanity. Triangle 2 was connected with hierarchy or advanced man. Triangle 1 connected with Shambhala and a bit difficult to understand for the majority of people. So there is less to discuss about this one as the book says. Now, the information must therefore remain academic and theoretical because we cannot really understand and validate this one. So connected with triangle 1, we have A Leo, which is the will of the self-conscious entity to manifest, holds the clue or key to the entire problem of self-conscious being, whether it is the will to be of a planetary logos of a group or of a man. The self-consciousness of man is inherent in the planet itself, which is the life expression of a fully self-conscious being. The use of the will through the Shambhala center involves the conscious use of that energy by the planetary logos. This is evoking response today from the world of men in terms of will, both higher and lower. So the willful self-willed man of the world is apt to be more responsive to this Shambhala force than is the disciple or the aspirant because they are more attuned to the gentler vibration of the hierarchy. I have earlier told you that this Leo force from Shambhala is finding direct entry into the human center instead of indirectly via the hierarchy, as has been the case. And then we have Saturn. This energy is primarily concerned with presenting opportunity to the hierarchy and its affiliated disciples. The phrase that Saturn is a planet of discipleship is basically true because ordinary average man, except in group formation, does not come so potently under its influence. For the hierarchy as a group is facing a great crisis of approach to Shambhala, analogous to that confronting humanity today as it seeks approach and contact with the hierarchy. So as we are gaining or trying to contact more with hierarchy, therefore there are more influences coming from Saturn and more crises. Thus, there are two interrelated crises affecting both humanity and the hierarchy, and these should produce, if correctly effected, that which is called alignment or integration, resulting in a far freer inflow of divine energy. Both these approaches, which are in the nature of magnetic attractive pulls, are conditioned by Saturn. In the case of humanity, this pull comes via the hierarchy, and apart from that hierarchy, mankind cannot today surmount or properly handle the crisis. This should be remembered and should speed the work of the disciples and aspirants of the world as they struggle for human liberation and to bring about divine intervention. The intervention desired should come via the hierarchy, if it is not to be too destructive in its effect. The last major intervention in Atlantean days came via Shambhala and resulted in the partial destruction of entire continent and land. These three triangles of energy can therefore be seen as basic and determining in all planetary affairs and event producing. I have consequently chosen to consider them in our efforts to comprehend this basic astrological science. So it says this energy should the intervention that we desire should come from hierarchy because if it comes directly from Shambhala, the result must be might be too much and destructive, like what happened in Atlantean days. So 2 was the triangle of forces, planets. We already discussed about the triangles connected with constellations. Now triangles of forces, planets is number 2. At the same time, it will be obvious to you that in relation to these simple triangles, certain interlocking triangles also emerge, as for instance the zodiacal triangle of Leo, Pisces, Capricorn. The 3 triangles that we just discussed, if we just take the zodiacal sign from them, we will have Leo, Pisces, Capricorn. And if we take the planets from them, we will have Saturn, Uranus, Mercury. These 2 triangles pour their 6 streams of force into our 3 planetary centers at this time, vitalizing and stimulating the planetary triangle of Shambhala hierarchy humanity. Behind these 3 stands a cosmic triangle emanating 3 streams of energy which pour into and through the 3 lesser triangles, thus potently affecting every kingdom in nature. This cosmic triangle is that of the Great Bear, Sirius, and Pleiades. This paragraph simply summarizes the preceding pages. We discussed already about this cosmic triangle, Great Bear, Sirius, Pleiades, connecting with will aspect, love aspect, intelligence aspect, connected with Shambhala hierarchy, humanity. So this major energy falls, comes through, or the energy is like pouring through um, planetary triangles, Shambhala hierarchy, humanity, also Leo, Pisces, Capricorn, Saturn, Uranus, Mercury. So it means we have major triangles, and from them we will have more interlockings of energy and more smaller triangles. So it is interesting to note that the 7th ray of ceremonial law and order works through Uranus, which is today the transmitter of Syrian force via Pisces to the hierarchy. From that middle center, it passes to that sensitive band of disciples, aspirants, and workers to whose hearts and hands is committed the heavy task, incident to the reorganization and the rebuilding of the shattered world structure. It is regarded as a ray of ritualistic decency. It aids and inaugurates the appearing of a new world order based on spiritual drive and on aspiration, mental freedom, loving, understanding, and a physical plane rhythm, which provides opportunity for full creative expression. To bring this about, energy from Shambhala, embodying the will to do good, is fused and blended with the organizing energy of the 7th ray, and then carried to humanity along the stream of will of a love which emanates from the hierarchy itself. This energy of the 7th ray passing through Uranus, uh, transmitter of Syrian force via Pisces to humanity, is passing through the band of disciples and building the new world order based on spirituality for us today. Pisces governs this effort of the hierarchy because the highest aspect of Pisces, which humanity can at this time in any way comprehend, is that of mediatorship. This is the energy of mediation, of right relationship. Today, as never before, the hierarchy stands as a mediating transmitter between 1. Humanity and the will of God. The revelation of the true significance and purpose of that will as it stands behind all world events is needed now as never before. This can come through a closer relation between the hierarchy and humanity. 2. Humanity and its karma, for it is equally essential that the laws for the transmutation of karma into active present good are clearly grasped. And 3. Humanity and cosmic evil, focused for many millennia of years in what has been called the Black Lodge. Speculation in this lodge and its activities is both fruitful and dangerous. The energy of Uranus pouring through and into humanity produces the urge to better conditions, to provide better forms for the occult and esoteric life, and to blend more adequately the inner and the outer man. So in this study of the interlocking of these triangles, it will become apparent to the student that the combination of the influences of Sirius, Leo, and Uranus has been much needed at this time to foster and bring about those conditions which will enable mankind, under the steady influence of the hierarchy, to take the first initiation and give birth to the Christ, thus revealing and bringing to the light of day the inner hidden spiritual man. This is also the triangle which is connected with love aspect, and also we said with fifth kingdom connected with advanced man. It is in Leo that man undergoes the preparatory stages of this first initiation. He finds himself and becomes self-conscious. Then he arrives at the stage of intelligent discipleship. He formulates a conscious inner program or purpose under the steady pressure of the life of the indwelling Christ. He begins to exhaust and deny the demands and desires of the lower nature. This cycle of experience is followed by a painful life of conscious reorientation, a cycle wherein he achieves balance and begins to stand in spiritual being as a result of constant trial and testing. Finally, he stands steady for the ordeal and the accolade of fire preceding the first initiation. At this final stage, humanity today stands. When, as is now the case, the influence of Uranus is added to the other influence and the seventh ray is at the same time entering into a major cycle of activity on the Earth, there is then present the energy needed to precipitate the crisis of initiation and produce a greater rhythmic awakening. So because we are, as a humanity, in the point of taking the first initiation, therefore, there is a lot of crisis happening because we are going to take this big step of initiation as a whole, as humanity. It must not be forgotten that Leo marks the height of achievement of the human soul, and this is today stimulated by Shambhala force now flowing into the center of humanity. This inflow will continue its critical work until, in the Aquarian age, so rapidly coming into expression, the one-pointed attitude of the Leo person becomes the expanded consciousness and the decentralized attitude of the Aquarian man. You can therefore see how full of promise is the future. So this attitude of self-centeredness will become group consciousness, and therefore we will have a better future. In the Aquarian age, the power of the planet Venus becomes a dominant factor in the last decade. This I have already told you when we were studying that sign. If you remember, we discussed about the decade, starting with Saturn and then finished with Venus. Venus was the planet which we are told was responsible for the appearance of the individualized consciousness in man. This in combination with other influences and forces. In the Aquarian age, Venus will again have an analogous influence, only with this difference that the emergence into manifestation of an increased individualization and self-conscious realization will be subordinate to the appearance of the first stages of an expanded consciousness throughout all mankind, the consciousness of group responsibility. It will be perhaps better expressed as a form of group individualization. Therefore, behind all these events, the dim outline of a lesser triangle of energy can be seen. This is a blend of the energy of three planets, Venus, Uranus, Earth. So we start the Aquarian age with the influence of Saturn, which is causing a lot of crisis. And we will end it with the influence of Venus, which will bring that group consciousness. So that's why the book says future is full of hope. This produces a combination of energies of ray 3, active intelligence, which is Earth, ray 7, ceremonial order or magic, which is Uranus, ray 5, concrete mind, which is Venus. Very briefly, I would like to touch upon the fact that, as might be expected, the influence of Leo, Pisces, Capricorn, which dominate the present world situation via Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity are potent in their often unrealized effects upon the individual people. They bring about changes in his life focus and in his centers, just as they have brought corresponding changes in the three planetary centers. In view of this, certain basic ideas can here be emphasized. These three signs are taken from the three triangles we discussed earlier. One, the influence of Capricorn via Mercury will have a dominant effect in the human kingdom, itself a planetary center. Two, the individual disciple will therefore respond to this Capricornian influence most easily. It will constitute a line of least resistance, offering opportunity, as well as the chance of possible disaster, if wrongly handled. Right response will lead the disciple nearer to the door of initiation. Wrong response will take him back into the depths of crystallization and of uh, concretion. If you remember, we said Capricorn is connected with two extremes. Is one liberation from matter, and one was like really deep into matter. So the influence of Capricorn can have this dual influence. One is to bring us nearer to initiation, and if taken and responded wrongly, can take us deeper into material life. Three disciples who respond to the influences above mentioned will necessarily be largely conditioned by their race, egoic and personal. First-ray disciples will, for instance, respond to the Shambhala influence transmitted from Leo and Saturn more easily than will second-ray disciples. These will in their turn react more rapidly and consistently to the hierarchy, transmitting energies from Pisces and Uranus. So it's basically, the book says, based on what ray the person is, we may respond more to the similar energies. So ray 1 person respond more to influence of Shambhala via Leo and Saturn. Ray 2 person respond more to the influence of hierarchy transmitting through Pisces and Uranus. 4. The above facts will demonstrate the nature and quality of the response of disciples on ray 1, 3, 5, 7 and rays 2, 4, 6. And this might always be borne in mind as being true of disciples, of all men and also of nations. So based on what ray the person is, their nation is, there will be more response towards that kind of energy, either coming through from Shambhala or from hierarchy or from humanity. 5. According to the response, so will be the evocation of the activity of the centers or a center. But, and this is a point of major importance, all disciples must at this time seek to find their dominant reaction in a planned response to the influence of the hierarchy and the energies transmitted by it. As a general rule, the impact of Shambhala force, particularly in the case of disciple on rays 1, 3, 5, 7, will be of personality nature. In this stimulation of the heart center, with a consequent control of the solar plexus center, which should be the planned result. The heart must dominate the solar plexus by the withdrawing of its energies to the heart. So it says, but we all must try to get the influence of the hierarchy, so to help us also activate our heart, and therefore the heart can dominate the solar plexus. 6. The time has not come when it is safe for the aspirant or the disciple to relate the head center and the base of the spine in response to the definite and conscious appropriation of Shambhala force. Whatever may take place automatically, normally, and naturally, and through the development of the disciple can and should be permitted to take place. Okay, so the time is not yet come to connect crown chakra to the base of the spine and get the influence of Shambhala force. But the hierarchy which we are trying to get is connected, if you remember, with solar plexus and heart. And we said humanity was Ajna and truth. 7. The awakening of the Ajna center with the consequent and subsequent conscious control of the truth center must inevitably take place provided the disciple fulfills two conditions. He can then become consciously, safely, and correctly creative. These two conditions are a consciousness or a conscious orientation towards the soul and towards the hierarchy, B, a deep love for humanity, present and based on mental perception and intuitive understanding and not on emotional reaction. If you remember, I think in one of the Golden Lotus Sutras, Grandmaster says intelligence without love leads to cruelty. Intelligence and power without love leads to cruelty. So it says when we are developing truth and ajna, we need to be conscious that we also need to develop the love for humanity. 8, where the above conditions are fulfilled, then the impact of the inflowing energies will produce the required stimulation and awakening. So this is all that I have to say about the response of the centers in the human being to the activity of the planetary centers under systemic and zodiacal stimulation. I am not here writing a treatise on the individual training of the disciple, but I am attempting to demonstrate the fact of cosmic zodiacal systemic planetary and human interplay, which in its turn constitutes a great and living whole, the life expression of a being of whom we only know that love and the will to good expressed through the universal mind are the outstanding characteristics, and that these are steadily emerging into increasing radiance. Okay, and then we are 3, the triangles and the centers. It is necessary to remember that all influences which impinge upon the individual or upon humanity as a whole pass through or are transmitted by one of other of the planetary centers. I have said little about these centers, save to refer to the major 3 centers, which we call Shambhala, hierarchy, humanity. So we recognize them as Shambhala, connected with power, purpose, planetary head center, directing will. Hierarchy is love, wisdom, planetary heart center, directed love. Humanity, intelligence, planetary ajna center, directed mind. Planetary head center refers to the crown, planetary crown center. So we have these 3 major centers. 4 other centers remain to be considered. The planetary throat center, solar plexus, sacral center, and the center at the base of the spine. So out of the 7, we had 3 here. So the book says there are 4 more to be considered. The planetary throat, solar plexus, sacral center, and base of the spine. In the planetary logoic life, as it is the case also with individual man, the microcosm of the macrocosm, certain centers are more awakened than others and vibrate in unison with systemic impulse more fully than others. In the case of the planetary logos of our little sphere, the head center, the ajna center, and the heart and solar plexus centers and the throat are the 5 focal points of energy which are the most alive and vibrant. So in case of our planetary logos, crown, ajna, heart, solar plexus, and throat are the 5 centers which are more active. The sacral center is slowly dropping below the threshold of the logoic consciousness, whilst the center at the base of the spine is practically entirely quiescent, except in connection with its pranic effect upon the form life, engendering the will to live, the urge to survival, and the vitalization of force. I refer to this particular word cycle and period and to the state of affairs in this, the 5th or Aryan root race. What is true of humanity, for instance, during the 3rd root race may not be true in the 5th root race. So here it says, what we are discussing right now, it's about the 5th root race, which is the Aryan root race. So the fact that 5 centers are now more activated and so on is related to our current root race. And this was not the case before and will not be the case in the future. So whenever we are studying, we need to consider which root race we are right now. Or if we are reading some kind of books or literature or scripture from before, we also need to understand when they were written, especially when it comes with esoteric astrology. And then using the law of analogy, we need to understand and then apply it to our current situation. Humanity is the correspondence in the planetary life to the Ajna center in individual man. Earlier, I told you that the fifth ray of concrete knowledge is related to the Ajna center. And therefore, in this present world cycle, you have humanity, planetary Ajna center, fifth ray of knowledge, fifth root rays. This is where we are standing right now. Therefore, five centers in man are rapidly awakening, the five that we discussed: crown, ajna, throat, heart, solar plexus. Humanity was at one time the correspondence to the planetary solar plexus, and someday will shift the focus of its receptivity to the planetary heart center. When this takes place, the hierarchy will shift its focus of receptivity into the sphere of influence of Shambhala. Of this shift, the presence of the 12-petal lotus in the highest head center, the relating point between the heart and the soul on its own plane, is the guarantee. Now you see, we do twin hearts meditation. Twin hearts meditation is relating heart to the crown. It's helping also to activate the heart chakra. So the following relations must consequently be borne in mind. One, head center or crown center, Shambhala, first ray, first and seven races. This is connected with first and seven root races. Will, the goal. Energy of life, synthesis. Seven centers awakened and functioning. In first root race, alive and faintly vibrating. In seventh root race, fully awakened. So when we are in seventh root race, we will have all the seven centers function, awakened and functioning. 2. Heart center hierarchy, second ray, connected with six root rays. Love is the goal. Energy of identification, achievement of fusion, six centers functioning. The focal point of the egoic consciousness of divinity, the fifth kingdom, the kingdom of God. And 3. Ajna center, humanity, fifth ray, fifth root rays, intuition, the goal. The goal is intuition. The energy of initiation, development of inclusiveness, five centers rapidly awakening, the focal point of personality, the human kingdom, the fourth kingdom in nature. So you see, that's why in our current era, intelligence is highly important. And also we have a lot of people with fifth ray, the ray of technology, knowledge. Technology is very, very important. Knowledge is very important. But as we are moving into six root rays, love will be more important. So when you see people who are less and intelligent, we are not going to criticize them anymore, but we are going to be more inclusive. We are going to be more loving. We are going to accept them even more. So that is the energy that we are going towards. And if you again go back to the study of the solar system, there we discussed about six root rays and how they will look like. And you will see that they are very inclusive. Love will become more important. As of now, we have knowledge or technology or science, which is more important. Everything needs to be scientifically approved. Otherwise, very difficult for the whole humanity to accept. But eventually we will move towards love, and we will be more inclusive, more harmonizing, more loving, more accepting towards the whole humanity, even the less intelligent ones. Okay, then 4, throat center connected with animal kingdom, third ray, third root race, intellect. The goal was intellect. The energy of illumination, creating in the light, 4 centers functioning, focal point of the instinctual consciousness, the third kingdom in nature. 5, solar plexus connected with vegetable, 6 ray, 4th root race, instinct, the goal. The energy of aspiration, unfoldment of sensitivity, 3 centers functioning, focal point of psychic response, the second kingdom in nature. 6, sacral center, Deva evolution, 7th ray, Second root race, responsiveness, the goal. The energy of magnetism, power to build. Two centers functioning, heart and sacral centers. Focal point of vibratory response to the eye of God. And seven base of spine, mineral, fourth ray. Seventh root race, synthesis, the goal. The energy of foundational synthesis, completion. All centers functioning as one. Focal point of evolution, the first kingdom in nature. This tabulation may serve to make a little clearer the present general plan or blueprint of the evolutionary development of consciousness. So we are here right now. We are moving towards heart center to be the focal point and love to be the goal. And then we will move to head center, crown center, Shambhala, and will be the goal. There is another point of interest to which I wish to refer, and it is one which is little realized by the average occult student. I refer to the outlets of planetary energy through the means of which great and general effects are produced in the external planetary life. In this fifth root race, there are only 5 such outlets as far as effects on humanity are concerned. Man's responsiveness to them is demonstrated by the fact of their relative importance in conditioning world events and world affairs. Wherever one of these outlets for spiritual force is found, there will also be found a city of spiritual importance in the same location. These 5 points are, so because we are now in fifth root race, 5 centers, planetary centers are activated. In the external world, there are 5 outlets of the energy. So the book will mention 5 places, 5 cities actually, which are the outlets. Number 1 is London for the British Empire, New York for the Western Hemisphere, Geneva for all of Europe, including the USSR, Tokyo for the Far East, Darjeeling for all of Central Asia and India. So later, 2 more points or outlets for energy will be added to these, but the time is not yet. Through these 5 places and areas in their neighborhood, the energy of 5 rays pour forth, conditioning the world of men, leading to effects of planetary significance and determining the trend of events. These 5 points of conditioning energy produce 2 triangles of force in their interrelation. We have 2 triangles. One is London, New York, Darjeeling. Second one, Tokyo, New York, Geneva. Geneva and Darjeeling are 2 centers through which pure spiritual energy can be directed with more facility than through the other 3, and they therefore constitute the higher points of their respective triangles. They are more subjective in their influence than are London, New York, or Tokyo. Together, they form 5 centers of impelling energy today. Based on the book, okay? So we can still do our own studies and try to understand this more. It may interest you also to know that governing rays and astrological signs of these 5 places, so far as they can be given at this time and during this present cycle. Forget not that the personality rays change from period to period in connection with countries and cities, just as they do with individuals. So the book will tell us the soul ray and personality ray of these 5 cities, but it says that don't forget that personality ray changes from period to period. Oh, this is very, doesn't show well. So we have rays, I will read through. We have London. Fifth ray is the soul ray. Second ray, personality ray. Sign is Gemini. New York, second ray is the soul ray. Third ray, sorry, this was 7, I think. London is 5th and 7th. New York, second is the soul ray, and third is the personality ray. Sign is Cancer. Tokyo, 6th ray is the soul ray. 4th ray is personality ray. Sign is Cancer. Geneva, first ray is the soul ray and second ray is personality ray. Sign is Leo. Darjeeling, second ray is the soul ray. As of now, fifth ray is personality ray. And sign is Scorpio. Now, with this knowledge, I think in some other books you can also find the soul ray and personality ray of some other countries and cities. So you can try to understand and do some comparison and see how that country or that city performs or responds to different world crises and events. Is it really connected with that ray? And then what is there for the people in that country to learn further based on what ray and the country is, something like that. So if students will study this information in connection with that given elsewhere in connection with other nations and cities, the interrelations now emerging in world affairs will be seen as the result of the play of these forces and energies and therefore unavoidable. So when a country is a certain ray, they have a certain way of responding to world events. Like some will, if they are second ray, they will respond in a loving way in relation to love. If they are first ray, they will respond in relation to will. If they are, for example, here, whose personality? No personality is one here. For example, Geneva is second ray personality, so it means love aspect, something like that. The use of the energy may be along wrong lines, producing separation and trouble, or along right lines, leading to eventual harmony and understanding. But the energy is there and must make its effects in any case. As in the individual life, the result of the play of the life of the soul upon the form aspect, one or other of the rays will dominate and control. If the person or nation is spiritually oriented, the result of the energy impact will be good and will lead towards the working out of the divine plan and thus be wholly constructive. Where personality force dominates, the effects will be destructive and hindering to the emergence of divine purpose. So the book says, if the ray of the soul is more activated, then the way the country responds is more aligned with the divine plan and therefore leads to more harmony. But if they are um, more responding from the personality ray, that may lead to more separation and trouble. Okay, so nevertheless, even destructive force can and does finally work towards good, for the trend of the evolutionary force is unalterable. So the book says even if they are responding from personality ray, eventually there will be evolution and oneness. It can be slowed down or speeded up according to their purpose, aspiration, and orientation of the entity, human or national. It can express soul purpose or personality selfishness, but the urge towards betterment will inevitably triumph. So the same way it also applies to human. If we perform more from our or respond more from the perspective of our soul ray, it will accelerate our evolution. If we more perform from the aspect or perspective of our personality ray, maybe more selfish and slow down. But eventually, we are also moving towards evolution. So in the study of the science of triangles, the student must bear in mind that there is always one point of the triangle which in a particular crisis or event in consciousness is the emanating dynamic conditioning energy, which we discussed about this. At any point, one energy is more activated. During the cycle in which it thus controls, the other 2 points expressed respectively and are regarded esoterically as embodying forces. Every triangle is therefore the expression of one fundamental energy and of two secondary forces. This is a basic statement of importance and the formulation of a law under which all the triplicity of energy function in time and space. So at any point, one type of energy is more. So you have consequently an emanating energy center, which is dynamic expression of cyclic purpose, positive qualified outgoing ray energy, planetary system, systemic, zodiacal, and cosmic energy, the basis of Hylozoistic means consider everything as life expression. A respective force center and evocative expression of the initial impelling energy is synthetic of two forces, the emanating and the respective. A qualified conditioning secondary energy, motivating blended energy, neither positive nor negative. And three, we have a responsive point of negative energy. A major center completing the grounding of the emanating energy, responsive mainly to the second point of the triangle, source of a violent interplay between the 2 points of the baseline. So we always have one emanating and then a respective and secondary energies. Something like that. Emanating energy, evocative force, magnetic center, and energy is connecting these three. This distributing center can be a solar system, regarded as a cosmic center, a planet, which is a systemic center, one of the planetary centers above referred to, a nation or an individual, or one of the centers in the human etheric body. A close study of these energy streams will demonstrate two major movements. One, a downflow of energy from an emanating center. This leads to one, its merging with the energy of a center of reception and its consequent qualification. Two, its transmission. Two, and its evocative effect upon a second point or focal point of reception. So from emanating center goes to another center, evocative force. This leaves one side of the triangle as yet uncompleted. The distributing center, the three types of energy, or rather one energy and two forces, proceed then with the flowing activities. A, evocative energizing of a secondary triangle, pouring down one side of this reflected triangle into the evoked expression of on the physical plane, producing manifestation quality and activity, forming a reservoir of descending and balancing energies. Again, going back, then we have the energy coming down to the physical plane and being distributed. Some light on this most abstruse subject can be gained if the student will attempt to realize that the above diagram and subsequent statement describes his own involutionary and evolutionary history. If you remember, we had involution coming down and then coming down and getting more merged into matter, and then evolution going up again into spirituality or coming out of matter. We discussed that more in the study of solar system. It depicts the interplay of his monadic life, soul energy, and personality force, as these three focus on the physical plane, producing manifestation and appearance. A return flow of this qualified energy to its emanating source or the highest point of the major triangle. This produces, one, the completion of the two triangles, the real and the unreal. The building of the antakarna is an aspect of this completion. This concerns the final building of the later stages of the antakarna by the initiate. Two, the transmission of force from the reflected or secondary triangle in the three worlds of human endeavor, or in the five worlds in the case of evolution of members of hierarchy, is into the same focal point on the baseline of the higher triangle which received the original emanating energy. Okay, so it starts from here, comes down, comes up, goes up, going back to the same point. Three, there are consequently 2 points of major importance in the higher triangle. A, the emanating force of positive conditioning energy. B, the point which receives into itself both the higher energy and the lower forces. This point is called the soul aspect of the triangle and is always the registering agent of consciousness. It is therefore the producer of crisis. because the point where several triangle energies meet is the source of crisis in the outer life. See, the crises are crises of initiation and is true of men as individuals, of nations, and of humanity as a whole. The overshadowing triangle is the factor which produces by its flow into and out of the secondary triangle the moments in time and the events in space which lead to those episodes in life of the soul wherein forces become energy and energy becomes life. Such a momentous event or crisis is now taking place in the life of humanity today. So in the new astrology, which will be that of the soul, the paramount consideration of the 12 houses, which are now of such importance, will be less emphasized, and the consideration of the three crosses will emerge in their place. These three crosses make together 12 arms, and it is the energy flowing through the 12 arms and their place in the soul horoscope which will assume the major importance. Now we are studying all these houses, 12 houses. When we are dealing with the soul, the crosses become more important. The 12 houses concern the personality. The four arms of the three crosses concern the soul. And it is these 12 and their appearance in the horoscope or their failure to appear which will govern the horoscope of the soul. All the four influences of the three crosses will be found present in the chart of a master. We might consequently state that the forces of Cancer, Capricorn, Saturn, which are an expression of Sirian energy, enable the aspirant to tread the path of purification of probation. These energies focus and qualify the energy of the great lodge of the Most High in that distant sun. They pour through the hierarchy upon the mass of men and enable the unit in that mass to isolate himself and turn his back upon the past and find his way on that section of the path wherein he learns to feel. Two, we have Gemini, Sagittarius, Mercury, which are an expression of the Pleiades, enable the probationary disciple to pass on to the path of accepted discipleship. He is then becoming increasingly intuitive and entirely one-pointed, whilst the nature of the pairs of opposite is clear to him. The relation of the mother aspect and of the Christ child hidden within the form of the personality is realized, and the inner spiritual man institutes the process of initiation, identification with the spiritual entity on its own plane. The little self begins to react consciously and with increasing frequency to the higher self. The man presses forward on that path wherein he learns to see. And then we have Aries, Libra, the sun, which are an expression of the great bear. Bring about that focusing of energy in the life of the disciple, which makes it possible for him to function consciously and with intention upon the path of initiation. He enters the realm of formless worlds because Aries, the sign of beginnings, make this possible. Through the potency of Libra, he has succeeded in achieving that point of balance, which makes the final escape from the pairs of opposite possible. He now knows through transcended feelings and from identification with the seen vision the true meaning of being. This threefold process can also be covered by the three words: sensitivity, illumination, inspiration. So there is, as I have said, no way of handling this science of triangles at length or exhaustively, for it is the science of universal geometrical blueprint, underlying the phenomenal worlds and is also closely related to karma. It concerns the first precipitation of the interaction and the effect of the duality of manifestation of spirit matter, and they constitute one substance. But in its relation to esoteric astrology, it is possible to indicate certain fundamental interpretations of this relation which will enable the astrologer to work out eventually the astrology of the soul, to outline the horoscope of the ego, to draw up the new types of charts. So as we discussed, it's not possible to study more than this. So we studied the concept behind this triplicity or trinity And we discussed a few examples of the triangle. So with this understanding, we can study further and have more understanding towards the knowledge of the triangles. So the science of triangles is related to the total expression of the divine triplicity of manifestation: will, love, and intelligence, or life, consciousness, and form. So we already discussed that. Three energies of will, love, and intelligence are always apparent in the triangle. Until therefore the disciple can express in himself the integrated resemblance to these three aspects, he will not be able to grasp the meaning of this subjective astrological science. On our planet, the science of triangles is related to the three major aspects as they express themselves through Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity. Again, we said we have three major centers connected with our planetary life. Those are Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, which is also connected with the science of triangles. Again, therefore, we come up against the need for the approach of the integrated human being to this science, because only the man who is responsive to these three focal points of energy can understand the interplay. Only in fact can the man apprehend the underlying truth, whose two head centers and his heart center form a triangle of flowing energies, crown ajna hearts. There is a triangle in human chakra system. And we finish with, no, not yet finished. I think there is one more slide. So this is another summary. We discussed this already before, but it was again in the book. So we will just go through again. So we have different crises for the soul: crisis of incarnation, which leads to individualization. Constellation is Cancer, cardinal cross. Crisis of orientation, which is reversal of the wheel, connected with Aries, cardinal. Crisis of initiation, expansion, connected with Capricorn. Crisis of renunciation, connected with crucifixion, Gemini. Crisis of battlefield, connected with conflict, and the constellation is Scorpio. Crisis of birthplace, connected with initiation, connected with Virgo. Crisis of burning ground, liberation, Leo. Okay, last slide, conclusion. The science of triangles is related to the total expression of the divine triplicity of manifestation: will, love, and intelligence, or life, consciousness, and form. Until therefore the disciple can express in himself the integrated resemblance to these three aspects, he will not be able to grasp the meaning. 2. On our planet, the science of triangles is related to the three major aspects as they express themselves: Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity. We discussed about this already, but I included again as a conclusion. So, therefore, we come up against the need for the approach of the integrated human being to this science, because only the man who is responsive to this tree can really understand the interplay. So, with this knowledge of triangles and which quality they are connected with and how they play in cosmic level, macrocosm, and in planetary level, in human level, we can try to understand more deeply the knowledge of esoteric astrology. And as Grandmaster says, there is always Trinity. So we need to try to understand this. And out of the three energies, usually one is more dominating, as we discussed. And with that, we finish the study of the book Esoteric Astrology. Hope you enjoyed the session. And the next study session will be, we will put it in the group, the labors of Hercules. And we already referred to it a bit when we were studying the sign Scorpio, where we discussed about the crisis that the disciple goes through and comes out triumphant. So we want to study this further in the next book. We will have 1 week break, which will be next week, and we will study from the following week. That also will be, I think, maybe 1 month or 1.5. So it's a bit easier compared to this book. So we hope that all of you have been enjoying our study sessions and also join us for the next book. Thank you so much. Let's finish with a short invocation. Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, and all the great, great ones. Thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection. Thank you in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. Atma Namaste. See you for the next study session. Bye.